All right, Paige, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for that warm welcome. Hello, everyone. My name is Paige McCullough. I'm really excited to be joining you today for this conversation. A couple ground rules before we get started. A good reminder is just to double check that you're still on mute right now and know that you are welcome to leave your cameras off during this conversation. After this brief introduction, I will turn my camera off as well so that I'm not a distraction to you during our conversation. If you have any questions or comments that you want to provide during the session, you can type them right into your chat function. And this is also an interactive session. So I'll be asking you to provide some comments, to respond to some questions, and it generally makes for a more exciting and engaging talk when you participate. So of course, I encourage you to do so. I will also make sure that we have time reserved at the end if you have any questions about the content from today or want to know more about your assistance program. With all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off and we'll begin. Thanks for joining. So today we're talking about languishing, flourishing, and your mental health. And over the past few years, employees have been asked to do more, to do work differently, and to do better in new and challenging ways. And all of those shifting ideas and perspectives are happening while you're managing family life and personal responsibilities that can seem like they're never ending. Right? So that feeling of languishing or will this ever end exists not only in the workforce, but at home and can have a really big impact on your mental health. So working on our mental health is really, really important because it matters for everyone. It's the foundation for how we show up. So this interactive session is going to give you some more details and helpful ideas on how you can move from languishing through work and life to flourishing. So during the session today, we're first going to talk about what do those concepts of languishing and flourishing really mean? And what is my current mental wellness status? Right? This isn't something that we often think about unless we feel like we're doing really well and we'd identify ourselves higher up on the scale, or something happened in our lives that we're falling a bit lower. Right? When we're in that middle ground, it can be difficult to understand where we are. We'll talk about 3 concrete approaches to move from languishing to flourishing, and then start to develop an action plan that you can use to implement in the next 30 days to help you move that needle towards flourishing. So before we really dive in, I want you to do a moment of reflection. So I have a question for you. When you hear the word languishing, what are the first thoughts or images that come to mind? I invite you to share that with me in your question tool or your chat function. There's no wrong answer here, but when you hear that word languishing, what comes to mind for you? Yeah, one person saying you're not doing well. Falling behind, long suffering, drowning, stagnant. One person says doggy paddling, right? Just treading through water. Lying in bed, struggling to get up. Image of a dying flower. Yeah, maybe kind of depressed, feeling beaten down by life, not fully engaged, being stuck. I see a couple people sharing that description. Standing still, not able to move. Weight on your shoulders, absolutely. Yeah, so right, a lot of connected ideas here. That sensation of not being able to move forward. Maybe there's something heavy, something holding you back, right? Not fully being present or having some emotions that are coming to the surface that are not positive, right? And all of these concepts are absolutely connected to this idea of languishing. So this term languishing has existed for years, but it has gotten a recent spotlight put upon it as we're continuing to struggle with effects in businesses and life from pandemic impact, challenging work environments, and even just new things to worry about in the world around us. So there was an article that was written for the New York Times in April of 2021, and it was called, there's a name for that blah you're feeling. It's called languishing. And that was shared and quoted thousands of times and really popularized this ideas. So it turns out that languishing struck a chord for a lot of us. And it wasn't burnout, right? We still have energy. It's not quite depression, right? Those feelings of hopelessness aren't always present. You might just feel somewhat joyless or aimless, right? Really feeling stagnation or emptiness, as a couple of you pointed out, right? Almost like you're muddling through your days or looking at life through a foggy windshield. And for many of us, this was the dominant emotion of the past few years. So, this term of languishing was coined by psychologist Dr. Corey Keyes. They noted that the absence of a mental health disorder diagnosis does not necessarily equate to someone being mentally well. Instead of focusing on conditions like depression, this research favors an approach called predictive health. And what that does is it monitors predictors and behaviors that are linked to positive mental health and well being. So, some of those predictors or factors are positive emotions, right? An optimistic outlook on life, experiencing joy and happiness, life satisfaction, right? How content am I with where I am in my career, my home life? Deriving a sense of meaning, right? Is there a purpose behind the things that I'm doing? Why am I showing up in these ways? Interactions with society, right? Even strangers around me, how do I engage with those around me? And really fostering those positive relationships, right? Growth in friendships with coworkers and family members. Now, what they find in this research is that all of these components are tied to our sense of mental well being. But people who are languishing are scoring poorly across all of these domains. And at first glance, you might say, well, these people seem depressed, right? But they're actually not. Even though this group of people would not be diagnosed with a mental health condition, they're very far from getting the most out of life. So instead of thinking about mental health as a linear scale from depression on one side to flourishing on the other, researchers who investigate languishing really encourage this quadrant approach instead. So we can exist within these different areas on a spectrum, right? A spectrum from no or minimal mental illness or symptoms to severe or persistent mental health problems. And from flourishing, which is characterized by a high level of mental well being, to languishing with poor mental well being. So let's talk about what these quadrants look like. The first in the upper left-hand corner is where individuals have high levels of mental well-being and no diagnosable mental illness, right? And many people would say, well, this is what flourishing is, right? This combination is the highest peak that we can get to. But we can also have high levels of mental well-being where we're experiencing flourishing while living with a diagnosable mental illness, right? These two things can coexist. Now, as we travel down the spectrum towards languishing, there are individuals who have low levels of mental well being who do not have a diagnosable mental illness. And there can be individuals who have both low levels of mental well being and a diagnosable mental illness. So, this idea of these quadrants is really to show that it's not black or white, right? We're not languishing or flourishing. We can be moving up and down these spectrums in different seasons of our lives when we encounter different circumstances and situations, right? So, knowing it's not just high levels of mental well being or low, we can filter between these. So, what I want to do is go through some predictors or signs of what languishing looks like. Because one of the challenges of languishing is that it tends to come on slowly and you just feel off, right? Something doesn't feel right, but it's not quite to that point of maybe you going to get additional help. But there's some characteristics that are generally associated with this phenomenon. So I'm going to read you some characteristics that you might notice at work, and then we'll talk about how this might show up at home. And I want you just to note for yourself if any of these ring true for you. So at work, languishing can look like feeling disconnected or disassociated from your coworkers. This might mean something simple, like you turn down going out to lunch on Friday when everyone normally goes together. or something bigger, like you feel like you aren't being included in conversations with others, or you're just not getting work on those same projects you did before. You might find that there's a shift in your emotions. You might be really irritable, right? Or you're confused, not really sure how you feel, but you just don't feel quite right. You might even feel really sad, but for seemingly no reason. Often there's an inability to get excited about upcoming projects, right? That spark or momentum that was there before just seems to be lacking. While you're working, you might find that you have difficulty focusing on tasks or remembering, right? Things are quickly leaving your mind if you don't write them down. And you might start to find that you become cynical about your leaders, your colleagues, your career in general, right? Making jokes about the position that you're in or saying, oh, this just isn't meant for me. And often when we're in that space of languishing, we start to procrastinate. Right? We put things on the back burner. We're not focusing on those top priority projects because we just lack motivation to complete assignments. Right? It's not something that we want to put our energy into now. So certainly this list is not exhaustive, but these are some of those characteristics that might start to tune you into, you know what, I might be experiencing languishing and it's showing up when I'm at work. Now, we talked about the fact that languishing doesn't only happen within our careers, it can happen in our personal lives as well. So here's some additional signs or symptoms you might notice at home. And again, I just want you to notice if any of these resonate for you. So the first one that's often cited is this sense of emptiness or an existential crisis. You might say, I'm having a midlife crisis. I have no idea what I'm doing. Is this career the one that's right for me? Am I living in the right place? I don't have any hobbies. Right? I'm just not really sure what to do with myself. And there tends to be that absence of well-being, even though you're not sick. Right? You just don't feel great like your full self. We tend not to be able to describe those feelings in detail. Right? You just can't quite put your finger on what's off. But it's almost as if there's nothing to look forward to. Right? There's no events. I don't really want to celebrate or spend time with others. So I might start to engage in some risky behaviors to try to break that blah feeling. Whether I'm going out and drinking, or I'm using drugs, or coping by eating food, right? Behaviors that aren't typical of my day-to-day life. And we tend to feel like we're just going through the motions, right? On autopilot, life is happening around you or happening to you, but not for you. Now, part of the danger is that when you're languishing, you might not notice these things are happening. You don't catch yourself slowly slipping into solitude, or you might just be indifferent to your own indifference. And when you can't see that suffering happening, we tend not to seek help, right? Or do much about it in the moment. Now, even if you are not languishing, you probably know people who are, whether in your personal or professional life. So understanding it better can help you help them. Now, when we talk about languishing, we often talk about these other topics of burnout and depression, right? Two other hot topic words. And while languishing, depression, and burnout do share many symptoms, they differ in cause and severity. So I want to talk about what those differences are. Starting with burnout, this is specifically a work-related phenomenon, and it comes from a poor work-life balance or doing work that isn't a good match for your values and your skills. Right? So we certainly can be experiencing burnout, but it's often because we're not prioritizing the right things. Languishing, on the other hand, is an overall state that affects every area of your life. And the people who are languishing don't meet that criteria for a mental health disorder, but they're lacking that vitality and optimism that's associated with true well-being. Now, languishing might be such a common feeling now because it's really unpredictable. We can move in and out of a state of languishing over a couple of days, or it can even extend longer to a couple of weeks. right? What's concerning is when we get stuck in that feeling and we don't have the tools to get ourselves out. Now, that third category, depression, is a clinical condition that is more severe than languishing. It extends into all aspects of life and it doesn't come and go. Depression has to last at least 6 months to be diagnosed, and it requires professional support to treat it effectively. Now, it's important to note that those who are experiencing languish or burnout are at a higher risk of becoming depressed. And those feelings that come with languish and burnout can be a predictor for anxiety disorders and depression later on in life. Now, the majority of people who are languishing don't actually need to access therapy as their first line of defense. What we want to do is to develop our own resources to get us unstuck, right? Psychological resources and skills that we can use in the moment. And this can help us to protect our well-being in the future as well. So when we think about languishing, we want to think, what is the antidote here, right? And we're looking to slide on that scale towards flourishing, where we have energy, confidence to control and improve our own well-being. So when we're experiencing flourishing, we can follow the PERMA model. So PERMA stands for positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishments. When we follow this PERMA model, we are pursuing and engaged in an authentic life that's bringing happiness for us by meeting the goals that we set, connecting with our passions, and really acknowledging those accomplishments, even through the peaks and valleys that come up through life. Right? We're not panicked by challenges or setbacks that come our way, but we know that we have those tools to act in the moment. So we're going to break down each of these components of PERMA in a little bit more detail, and we'll start with positive emotions. One really good way to pump the brakes on languishing is by increasing positive emotions. And one way to do that is by creating a gratitude practice. Now, you might have a gratitude practice in a journal, where you write down your thoughts at the end of the day, or an app that you use, even through a simple meditation. But this act of practicing gratitude is associated with better mood and overall health. So I want to practice it right now. Tell me in your chat something or someone that you are grateful for today, and I want you to be specific. Give me details. If you list someone who you're grateful for, tell me why you're grateful for them. So take a moment to think about this and then share with us in your chat something or someone that you're grateful for. Oh, warm sunshine and cool breezes. Excellent. One person says, grateful for my husband, great support, partner, and father. Grateful for my new puppy that wakes up with energy every day. Grateful to be here with you all, given the chance to promote wellness. Oh, Benedict Cumbercat purring in my lap as I write this. Love the name, love that your kitty's with you here. Grateful for my supervisor, encouraging me to utilize my vacation time this summer. Yes, so important. New student employees starting soon. For my warm and comfortable bed. For my coworker who stepped in and helped me with a project. For a new job. Excellent. Father-in-law who's watching my 4-month-old son. Fantastic. Promotion at work. For a new day and for my family. I hope you're watching the chat as all of these excellent gratitude practices come in here, right? And this is a simple way that you can just acknowledge those small things in life, right? It doesn't have to be a big, lavish event for you to find something to be grateful for. So I encourage you to do this every day, even on those days where it feels like there's nothing to be grateful for or nothing to look forward to. Challenge yourself to identify at least one thing. Now, we can also work on our positive emotions by practicing naming our feelings. When we put words to how we feel, it draws us out of that space where we're overwhelmed by the feeling and we're able to make decisions on what's happening here. Right? It's easier to take action when I know how I'm feeling, whether I'm angry or overwhelmed. We also want to find some opportunities to have some fun and incorporate joy into your life. Right? Let yourself do something, anything that makes you feel good. There's a lot of research that shows the more that you fill your own cup, the better you're able to show up in all of the spaces of your life that need your attention. Also, work to find purpose in everyday routines. Right? Think about something you look forward to every day, whether it's your morning cup of coffee or having time to play with your kids after work. Right? Something that gives your life meaning. Because feeling good about life is not enough without that sense of purpose or something that extends beyond you. So think about ways to cultivate all of these practices to bring more positive emotions to the surface for you. Now, that second component is really about being engaged in experiences. And we can talk about this idea of flow experiences. Now, flow experiences can happen when you're singing in a choir, when you're playing a game of chess, when you're on a long bike ride, or when you're walking your dogs outside, just to name a few. Moments like these provide flashes of intense living against the background of everyday life. And when we're in these flow experiences, we actually have slower brain waves. So we unlock an opportunity for greater creativity, focus, and productivity. And who doesn't want to experience all of those things? So when you're looking for an activity that allows you to tap into flow, you want to do something that requires your full attention, right? Like a game where you're in a self-contained universe, or you're playing a musical piece, or you're weaving a rug, right? All of your focus is on that activity. And there's this sense of timelessness, almost like hours are passing by in minutes. A great example of this is when you read a book, right? You might sit down on your couch, snuggle up with your cat, start reading a book, and then you look down at your watch and all of a sudden 3 hours went by, right? Really quickly, time passes and it doesn't even feel like it was that long. And there's also this sense of intrinsic motivation. Hey, I'm doing this just for me because this matters. It's something that's important to me, not because my boss told me I should do it, not because my husband's been nagging me all day, right? This is something that I want to do to fill my own cup. And when you let your mind focus on those things that you really enjoy, you're able to unlock creative thinking. So you might find that when you're doing a hobby you really love, you find a solution to a problem at work that's been bothering you all week long, right? When we're in flow, we have greater access to intuition. And it's really when we're not thinking about problems when we're able to find solutions. So I want you to tell me in your chat, what activities do you practice that allow you to unlock this experience of flow? Tell me something that you do. Yeah, gardening, excellent example. Exercise, watching a show, playing piano, knitting, weight training, bowling, yes, puzzles, theater, excellent. Planning my daughter's college room, how fun. Listening to podcasts while walking, disc golf, yeah. Watching a Hallmark movie you've seen before, practicing yoga, cooking, hiking outside, watching a sporting event of a team I like, yes. Singing in my car, awesome. Yeah, these are all really fantastic examples. I'm so glad to hear that many of you are finding ways to get active in your flow experiences, right? Added benefits from doing that. But anything that really makes you feel good that you can do just for you is going to help you move that needle from languishing to flourishing. Now, we also want to find opportunities where we can improve our relationships and connect with others. Now, I like to talk about this idea of social fitness. And just like it sounds, it's really closely related to physical fitness. right? If you have a physical fitness practice that you do, whether you like to walk outside or practice yoga, lift weights, this is something that you come back to on a daily or a weekly basis, right? And you get stronger as you continue that practice. The same is required for our social relationships. Social fitness is something that we have to come back to, right? I have to continually have active maintenance in my relationships to connect purposefully with others, even if it's just short conversations, right? To continue to make those connections with others and to deepen our relationships. And what we find is that these connections can increase your resilience in the face of challenges. When you have a difficult day, you have that friend who you can call up and talk to, right? You have the coworker who you can vent to when something throws you off during your day. And this is really, really important. Now, you also might choose to talk to a coach, to find a mentor, or to engage in behavioral therapy. These are all ways where you can leverage sharing your feelings and goals with someone else to gain some perspective, right? And to have that support system for an accountability buddy to help you get that spring back in your step. Now, you can also work to find meaning to help stop languishing. And it's really important that we choose our work wisely. If possible, finding that work that allows you to be in flow at least some of the time. Whether this is in a brainstorming session with someone else or a time that you can be creative while working on a project, you can unlock that flow state at work too. And you also want to find work that matches your values. Because when we are doing work that's draining or misaligned with what's important to us, it can have a really powerful effect on our health over time. Right? So check in what's important to me and how am I showing up in those ways, aligning with my work. We also have to give ourselves grace. Right? Practicing self-compassion and reframing our setbacks are going to help us avoid spiraling when things don't go the way we were expected. And I know this can feel easier said than done. Right? We all tend to be our own harshest critic. But I encourage you to see your challenges as a chapter in your life, right? There's something that I can learn from this as I move forward. You can also work to find meaning by intentionally planning for the future. Right? If you feel like there's nothing to look forward to, you're likely going to get stuck in that space of languishing. So have something that's on your calendar, whether it's a trip, even to a town that's nearby, a class. Maybe you're going to test out painting or you're going to a pottery class, a date night, right? Even a date night for yourself or a virtual happy hour with some friends, right? Whatever it takes to get you looking ahead again, put something on your calendar that's going to happen in the future and really commit yourself to showing up for that. So with the spirit of this in mind, I want you to tell me in your chat, what's something that you are looking forward to this week? And since it's Thursday, it might be something that you're looking forward to doing this weekend or early next week as well. Tell me something you're looking forward to. One person says their friend is coming from out of town, celebrating a daughter's birthday, biking the VA Creeper. That sounds exciting. Concert, vacation, planning graduation and a wedding. Ooh, you got lots of exciting things on your plate there. A new yoga class, going for a long walk, watching your daughter compete this weekend, sleeping until 7:30 a.m. Yes, that is a win. Vacation with a friend this summer. Awesome. So even if it's something simple, right? Taking yourself out to a new restaurant or going for a walk at a new park that's nearby, right? Find that opportunity to put something on your calendar that you can look forward to and notice how it shifts your energy when you're able to get closer to that event, right? It's exciting to celebrate. Now, that final component of PERMA we're going to talk about is accomplishments. And that can really help end your feeling of languish. So the first step is to find a new way to challenge yourself, right? Taking on something new, and it doesn't have to be work related. It might be a new hobby, right? or just trying a new way to do an activity that you already do. Often, when we get absorbed in something new, it's a really good way to reignite passion in other areas of our life as well. Also, remind yourself to set some small goals for yourself. When you're not feeling excited about life, it can feel hard to get started, right? So, if you set those small, meaningful goals, you'll start to build that sense of momentum, and it often leads to bigger changes along the way. Also, remember to celebrate your successes, large and small. Because when those big things seem like they're out of our control, it's really easy to forget about the small things. So you can even just make a list of everything that you did today, even if it's something that you do every single day, and you'll start to be shocked at how much you actually accomplish on a daily basis. And that can help to elevate your mood the next time you feel like you're in a slump. Now, this isn't just about celebrating big accomplishments like buying a home or getting a promotion, right? Those small moments give us an opportunity to do something that's called savoring. And savoring is all about appreciating an event, a conversation, a person, or an activity, and just noticing that tiny victory in the things that are happening around you. So I want you to tell me in your chat, what are some big or small victories that you have accomplished in the past few months? Take a moment to think about that, and then let's share a big or small victory that you've accomplished in the past few months. Paying bills ahead of schedule, awesome. Taking a class here at NC State. Adopting a dog, something you've wanted for years. Completing your second semester at college, way to go. Started cleaning out your basement. Yeah, a little spring cleaning, right? Completing a database for work, awesome. Reaching out to therapy for help. I'm so glad to hear that. Thrived through this semester. Love that description. Taking a trip abroad to see your best friend, learning to cook, getting back after work after having a surgery that had some unexpected complications. Excellent, glad you're back. Learning a new program, lowering your A1C, taking a Latin class. Wow, finishing your second chapter of your second book. Awesome. Yeah, these are really, really exciting accomplishments. Thank you for sharing here. And don't forget to give yourself credit, even for those things that seem simple, right? I did a load of laundry this morning and it felt like the biggest accomplishment ever, right? Maybe you've been there before where you're procrastinating or putting off something, you get it done, and you feel good. Hey, don't forget to celebrate those small things along the way too. So when we think about these ideas of flourishing, we also want to develop some goals that can help us get down the path. Now, where we go wrong is that we often set goals that are really broad. So I like to think about using SMART goals to make our goals more achievable and helpful. So when we have a SMART goal, we want it to be specific, right? Something that I don't have any ambiguities about. It's crystal clear. I know what's expected, why it's important, who's involved, where this is going to happen, and what I need to make it happen. Now, I also want my goals to be measurable because otherwise I don't have a concrete way to say, am I making progress towards attaining this goal? Right? Measurement is a way to help you stay on track, and it helps you experience that thrill of achievement as you're putting in the effort towards your goal. You also want to make sure your goal is attainable. But I want you to know that you can attain almost any goal that you set when you plan your steps carefully and set a schedule to carry out those steps. So find the balance that's right for you. Not setting a goal that's too low that doesn't require any improvement, but also being mindful of setting really complicated goals that would take years to accomplish. We also have to make sure it's realistic, right? Something that you're both willing and able to do. And a goal can absolutely be high and realistic, You're the one who's going to decide just how high that goal can be. And then finally, we want our goals to be tangible. You can experience it with one of your senses, often sight or hearing. And when your goal is tangible, you have a better chance of making it specific and measurable. So I also want you to think about this idea of SMART goals with PERMA, right? So looking for those opportunities for positive emotions, engagement, relationships, finding meaning, and accomplishments. So the next time that you set a goal for yourself, not only do I want you to scan through your SMART criteria, but I want you to pick one or two areas of this PERMA model to say, you know what, I'm going to focus on this area. Maybe it's relationships, and you'll create a goal in there to make a new friend or try a new hobby. Maybe it's accomplishments, right? And you really want to celebrate your successes. Selecting one of those aspects of PERMA and creating a goal for yourself is a great way to get that momentum going. Now, your PERMA-related SMART goal is going to be most successful when you follow through with your plan, right? Really commit to what you're doing and continue to build relationships and learn about opportunities along the way. You never know, something might shift, a door might open that you weren't expecting. And when you continue to foster those relationships, you can really chase that to go whatever direction it's going. We also want to make sure the goal is yours, right? We talked about this before, that sense of intrinsic motivation. It's something that's meaningful to you, but it's also flexible because life is going to continue to throw us some curveballs and we want to be able to adapt along the way. Make sure that your goal is challenging and exciting, something that really pushes you to light that fire and start going. And check in to make sure the goal is aligned with your values and balanced. Now, we go wrong in our goal setting when our goal is too general or vague. So narrow your focus in. And remember, we don't want to set 10 goals at one time without any sense of priority. This is one way that we tend to go wrong when we're setting a New Year's resolution, right? We list all these goals in every area of our life that we want to change. And then we say, okay, well, now where do I start? Right? So pick one area of that PERMA model you can focus on. Make sure that you're committed to what you're doing and you break it down, right? You don't have to jump from point A to point B all in one step. Make sure you're taking advantage of those available resources and don't convince yourself that this goal isn't important. If it's in your control, it's something that you can and will accomplish. So as I mentioned earlier in this session, moving from languishing to flourishing takes a lot of components. And one of them is getting help and support along the way. So I want to close out our session today by sharing how ComPsych can help you on this path. This assistance program is your single source for free and confidential support when you need it most. And these resources are not only available to you, but also to the members of your immediate household family, because we know it's important that you get support for those around you as well. You can visit us online at guidanceresources.com. And the first time you do that, you'll be prompted to register using your company web ID, FASAP. Note that is in all capital letters, exactly as you see it on your screen. And you only have to enter that ID the first time you go to the website. Then you'll be prompted to create a personal login and password that you can use each time you go back. Your online resource is really your one-stop shop for all things health, wellness, relationships, and career. We have articles on there on a variety of different topics, podcasts if you like listening to learn new information, and even a chat function where you can message with an expert to ask a question that's on your mind. Now, you can also call us at the phone number that's listed on your screen, 866-467-0467. And our phone lines are staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with a specialist who can listen to your concerns and direct you to the appropriate resources for help. You can call this phone number to be connected with a licensed counselor or therapist in your area. And you do have 3 free face-to-face counseling sessions that are available to you through this program. You can also call this phone number for any work-life balance concerns, whether it's finding a dog walker in your area or finding care for an elder parent who doesn't live in the same state. You can even call to ask for some financial guidance if you're looking to set up a budget or a college fund for someone in your family. Truly, any support that you need in your personal or professional life, we are here for you, happy to help. Again, these resources are available, no cost to you, completely confidential. So I highly encourage you to take advantage of those resources. If you have any questions about these resources or the content from today's webinar, I'm happy to answer any of those questions in the chat now. And if not, I want to thank you so much for your excellent participation today, for your attendance, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day.